All right. Well, we're here. Garage Talk, episode 3. I got Gabe here.
Yeah. What
We
up,
got
homies?
Jonathan. We got Rudy. We finally were able to get Gabe here through FaceTime.
That is
yeah.
right, homies.
So it's been long awaited for you to be back. So it's been really good, man. Yayo
been
misses
2 weeks,
you a
bro.
lot.
Yeah, he's over here whining.
Oh, my freaking
Yeah, your
Lover?
freaking lover.
my freaking lover.
He fell in love with your
Who's
hair.
Yayo again?
Yayo's gonna see me. He's not gonna know who I
Yeah, but
am.
who's Yayo? Who's Yayo? Who are you guys talking about so the listeners know?
Oh yeah, well, dude, he's the freaking mascot of Garage Talk. He's like, he's on. He's part of the logo design, so that's basically where. But yeah, so episode 3, we decided to go a route that was definitely a lot more personal, and was I don't know, just a really cool, interesting thing that happened specifically in your life, Gabe. So yeah, we're gonna touch on that.
Yeah. I guess what we're talking about is me meeting my dad, which we figured was a good
Yeah.
episode. Because obviously for me, it was a very it was an experience. And yeah, I mean, should I just go straight into it or what?
So you just met him, what was this, Labor Day, right? The one that just passed?
Yeah. So what happened was I've talked to my grandpa. Like I said, he added me on Facebook, and through that we kind of been, like, we call sometimes and whatnot, but like nothing really too crazy. And when I told him, I called him when I got here, I was like, hey, I'm in Texas, like maybe we can meet up or something, I don't know. He was like, oh, okay, maybe, but he lives in Austin, which is like 5 hours away, so it's a little tough. But he, without telling me, he gave my number to my dad, and I didn't know that he still talked to my dad. And on the Sunday before Labor Day, I just remember like receiving because my grandpa texted me and say, hey, I gave your number to your dad, expect a call. And I just didn't know what to say. And I just remember, like, I just got like a random phone call, and it said it was from Texas, and it's kind of new, like, who else would be calling me from Texas? And I called him, and I talked to him, and I'm gonna be honest, Chief, it was a little awkward at first, because it's like, well, what do you say? Like, what are you supposed to say to a family member who is that close, who should have been very close, but is a complete stranger? Someone who, for I would say a lot of people, is their comfort, is their source of wisdom, and to me was a complete stranger, someone I didn't know, so I just didn't know what to say to him. And at first it was a little awkward, but he was asking me, oh, what do you do, that kind of stuff, and we kind of like were able to talk more comfortably. We were able to like laugh, and I remember the first time we laughed was when he told me that he liked Quentin Tarantino, and I freaking love Quentin Tarantino, and we were just like laughing about that. And but anyways, he ended up saying, hey, I want to see you, I'm in Dallas, it's not that far, and we planned to hang out on Labor Day. But because all like the restaurants were closed, he said, hey, do you mind if we go to your sister's house to eat there? And I don't know why, but I just felt like that was way better than just meeting up at like a random restaurant. And so yeah, that was pretty much the setup.
And before that, like, have you ever talked to him or seen him in person, like, ever?
Dude, I literally never like texted him. I never spoke to him. I barely had an idea what he looked like. I mean, from what I know, what happened was he was gonna go to the army. No. Yeah, he wanted to go to the army, and he wanted my mom to, while she was pregnant, to go with him. But because of all the family that we have here, my mom just felt like, no, like I shouldn't go with you, and that was pretty much the reason why they weren't together anymore. So my mom had me without him, like while he was away, and from then he just never came back, and obviously, like my mom never went out there, so
Hmm.
yeah, um, yeah, just never any contact, anything like that.
And then how was that experience? So going from just last week to just like the beginning of just like I guess there's a certain I was thinking about it. Like if you don't know your dad and you don't know like there's supposed to be a male role model there, how would you even know that you're living like something that's different, right? So how just a little recap of how did that go? Just living without your dad around.
So I guess if we're gonna go dive deep now, dive deep into my childhood story, my freaking origins. Um, I would say for a big part of my life, grew up not knowing how to be a man, if that makes any sense. I grew up not really knowing. I think the main thing was just like, because when I say be a man, I say like just being, just like, how do I word this? Just being someone. I mean, this could also apply for females as well, but just be someone who's respectful, especially to like authorities. Someone who knows like when they are wrong, able to admit that. Just like very basic life qualities that I think are extremely valuable. I didn't really have anyone to bounce those off of because I sort of obviously, with me and my mom, was like a bit of a rebel, and I do think that if my dad was there, like knowing him now, he would not have dealt with me being a rebel. He would have like put me in my place. He just is that kind of guy. Um, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think
Yeah.
discipline is good. Um, and I just generally think that growing up without him, I had a lot of doubts in myself. Um, obviously, so many moments in my life where I was like, what if he was here? What if I had him to go to for advice for things that I can't ask others? Um, what if he was there to like teach me baseball at home? Because obviously I was super into baseball, but I didn't really have anyone to practice with or anything like that. I was like, what, like just little things like that. Like, what if I had him to like? This doesn't sound so cheesy, but what if I had him to play catch in the freaking yard? You know what I mean? Just like stuff like that. Um, so many moments like that. So many times when I just had questions about the world that just because obviously there are certain questions that you can only ask certain people, and many times in my life I just had questions for him, but obviously I couldn't ask him, so I was just left to my own devices, and it didn't lead to very glorious moments of my life. I'll just say that. Um, I'm not speaking for all kids who grew up without a dad, but I definitely think that a quality that can pop up without having your dad is that you start to place that like missing parental figure on others who should not have that role. Basically, kind of like daddy issues. Like, for example, you start looking to the wrong people as the other parental figure because you're missing that one, and because of that, you can, like, subconsciously will begin to take after them, even if you should not be taking after them. Just certain things like that, and I personally believe that I did that quite a bit. Um, I would place parental figure, or I would place that like role. I think role model was probably the better word. That role model figure on kids who were like older than me, who I thought were like cool. You know what I mean? Mostly that sort of stuff. I did so many like dumb things just to make people like me because I thought because I just had that role model figure on them. And I think that honestly, from me personally, from my own perspective, that's why we have such a big generation of people who are mostly young, like youth, who look to the wrong people as role models. You know, they look up to, like, for example, like some sort of like social influencer with like thousands or millions of um, followers on Instagram who are doing such like whack things, and they look up to them because they don't have that parental figure, whether it's a dad or a mom or even both. And
Cut out.
you know, we need more dads, we need more moms, we need more parents.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of strayed from the question a bit, but I don't know. I hope I answered adequately.
Yeah. Would you say you answered
Um,
it pretty good, or
No, yeah, that was
yeah,
perfect.
answered it good? Yeah. Yeah. You mind if we throw questions at you too? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, for
Anything to
sure.
say?
I mean, well, I feel like I should probably talk about the actual meeting him and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Should I
that'd be
talk about
pretty
that first?
important.
Yeah.
Did you really want, like, in terms of meeting him, were you excited to meet him? Because as far as like what you're telling us right now, the vibe that we're getting is that you you weren't mad. Like, you didn't have any like bitterness or resentment. Like, there's none of that in your tone.
Man, there's a lot to
Yeah.
unfold there. um, I guess first I'll answer
Okay.
the second half
Yeah.
that you're saying about the bitterness. So I'm not gonna get into
Mm.
detail because honestly, it's just
Of course.
personal business. But my mom told me a lot about my dad. Oh, sorry about that. About my dad and just the things that he did. And even my dad, when he was calling me on the phone, sort of like broke out a bit. He was like, "I'm so sorry for like I've made so many mistakes." But anyways, my dad did do a lot of bad things in his life, you know, to my mom, even after my mom in general. But a lot of bad things happened to him, like extremely horrible, like just unfathomable things that it. I just yeah, I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into details because that's just like his own personal business. I don't think he would even want me saying that. Not that he would see this, but anyways. Um, so even though all that, my mom would always say, "Do not hate your dad because he is a product of what has happened to him. All the mistakes." Or she didn't literally say that, but that's just how I took it. Like that's me in my own words explaining what she told me. She basically said, all of the bad things he's done is because of what was done to him, and it is not his fault. And obviously, I mean, it's easy to just be like, "Man, my dad," you know, be like, "Screw him, I don't need him. This bastard left me. Where
So
was
easy.
he when I needed him?" You know. But I mean, man, there isn't enough time in this life to hate, bro.
Damn.
Especially
And
your dad.
just going off of that,
You know, we
I said just
don't.
going off of that, I
What
want to
happened?
say that's just from the wisdom of your mom, because I know different situations where the kids hate their dad and they never met him, and I want to say that's because they're influenced by their mom, and and even when they do try to mend that relationship, it ends up being, that's all they remember is their mom talking about their dad and what they didn't do, and look at how they acted, and they don't give you child support and the whole 9 yards. And I want to say the only reason why it was so easy for you to even look at your dad like that was because your mom gave you the right influence. Instead of saying negative stuff and leaving it at that, she would say the negative stuff and say, yeah, well, because he was a product of how he grew up. And I think that's a benefit of living that way.
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't want to, how do I say this nicely? I don't want to toot my own horn too much, or I guess my mom's horn, but I do think that she has reached a point in her life where she sort of has that like wisdom of being able to be like, "Listen, homie, things happen, and sometimes it's not always people's fault. Like that's just, kind of like I said. So yeah, I do think that part of how I'm so accepting of what he did is because of my mom's reaction to it and the way that she presented the information to me. Like when she told me all the things that happened to him, she was like crying and she was like begging me, almost like, please don't hate your. This was long before I talked to him. It was like years ago. She was like, please don't hate your dad because like he is hurt. He is a broken man. He does not deserve what happened to him, and I don't blame him for what he did. Like that's what she told me basically. So because of all of that, I wasn't like on the phone like, man, where were you? I was just like, hey man, what's up? Like, how are you? And I was like just trying to make genuine conversation. I wasn't trying to be like, funny how you call me now, huh? Like that wasn't what I was trying to pull. Um, but anyways, I definitely, you would think, not speaking to my dad my whole life, I would be excited or nervous or something, some sort of feeling. But for me, the whole interaction from Sunday to Monday to after felt, for me, it almost felt like it was always supposed to happen. It was always going to happen. And now that it was happening, it is only right that I go through with it, if that makes any sense. So that's why I wasn't super like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like it's my dad. I was just like, yeah, like this is him. I knew this was gonna happen. I'm in the same state as him. I'm like an hour away. I talked to my grandpa. My grandpa says he's still alive, so this is gonna happen. Like there's a reason why I'm here in Texas. Part of the reason maybe to meet him. And I think that meeting him did give me a lot of closure. There were a lot of moments when he would be doing something, not even like talking to me or anything, just doing something of his own accord, like his own character. And I was kind of looking at him and be like that is, I see myself in him because like obviously I am a part of him. You know what I mean? Like for example, I remember this is kind of getting into what happened, like our meetup. But we were out at my sister's mom's house. By the way, I have a sister, a whole new sister. It's crazy. And then, but anyways, and I remember he was like singing with her, like they were like singing, and I guess he's super into like music and stuff, and he teaches her how to sing, and he was just having this like moment with her. And when I saw him, I saw myself with my other sisters, the way I act with them, like my moments with them. So there were a lot of moments like that where I would just look at my dad and see him do things, and it would always just like remind me, like that is where I come from. That's my dad, like even though I never knew him, his influence still is over me. I do things, a lot of things that I do, he does as well. The way he shows affection, I do too. Just like things like that where it's just so crazy. Like for me, like we just did so many similar things. But yeah. So going into it, like driving the way there, I didn't feel like I wasn't scared or anything. I just felt sort of like at peace with the whole situation. You know. I mean, I guess that's really it with how I felt and all that.
What kind of? Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I still, what happened? No, I was just gonna say, like, I still do feel like now I just feel so much closure, just in this whole situation with my dad. Like, oh, what if I knew him? Like, I feel like now, obviously, I have no idea what my life would have been like if he was there. But I guess if my dad was a part of my life, I wouldn't have lived in California. I would have been way out traveling like a military family, and I probably would have ended up here in Texas, like staying and living here. I would never have lived in California. And honestly, I never would sacrifice what I have, all the experiences I've had in California, just to find out what it would have been like if he was there. So, were you going to ask a question?
Yeah, because nowadays, like we all know, we're all a part of this youth group out here, Free Chapel Youth Group in Irvine, and we deal with a lot of van loads of kids, and you see a lot of. I was talking to Jonathan earlier that a lot of the majority of the kids, they don't have fathers at home, and I like, even me, I grew up with a single mom, but then I would go like to my dad's every weekend, or he was a part of the life, so it's like kind of a different scenario. But what kind of advice do you, like, let's say you're talking right now, and a kid's listening that may be growing up without a dad in the home, like, what kind of advice would you have for them? Like, to seek, maybe even, I don't know, to seek mentorship, or I don't know, there's a variety of things that you could speak from.
Yeah. I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying about obviously it is a very big generalization, but how certain fatherless kids will act. Probably my biggest advice would be, do not make people your idols, who should very much not be not idols, but role models. Don't make people role models that shouldn't be role models, just because you're missing that parental guidance, that parental figure. You will always feel that sort of absence in your life. And my biggest, or not, that's I kind of a dark way of saying it. That absence will be there. And let's say, like, I'm talking to, giving advice. I wouldn't want them to fulfill that absence with some sort of like drug, getting into drugs because they just have that hole in their heart, getting into whatever kinds of nonsense that makes them feel better, despite the fact that they're missing that person. I think too, you're always gonna wonder, you're always gonna wonder, you're always gonna think that life would have been better had it been the other way. You're always gonna, there's gonna be a lot of moments where you hold bitter judgment at your dad, or maybe it's your mom, if they're the one that's missing, for not being there. You're always gonna be, you might even think too, I could have done a better job, like, how could you do that? But my biggest advice to a kid who's struggling with that would be, or not my biggest advice, but another piece of advice is just, there is so much about the world that we just don't understand. And a big part of that is every individual. Like, for me, there's so much about the world that I don't know. And there is, even though my mom told me so much about my dad and I talked to him, there still is so much about him that I don't know about. And I think it is bad to assume to assume what the person is thinking, to assume what your missing dad is thinking, why he left, to assume why he makes the choices that he made. And I think that when you do assume, you allow those thoughts and those emotions to manifest within you, and to sort of like slowly taint your other emotions that you might feel toward other family members, to your mom, to people in your life who are trying to help you, because you might think you're just going to leave just like my dad did.
It reflects on other people. Like, you feel like the same way that, I don't know, like the way that he did you, it's like other people that come in your life, they're going to be the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do think that do not allow those emotions to taint everything else. Realize what's going on, realize the root of it, and from there you fix it.
Especially that's good, even if it's not like involving your parents, just people in general. Sometimes people get hurt by friends. Sometimes people get hurt by boyfriends, girlfriends, or whatever, and then they take that hurt and they let the next person that comes in their life feel the wrath of the last hurt, because they think that everyone, like for instance, like you're saying, is gonna hurt them like the other person did, and that's not even a no way of living, because it's like you're just putting yourself in that hole, I guess you could say, and living life like not the way it's supposed to be lived. You know what I mean? Like even like you could easily had every reason to say, you know what, my dad wasn't here, and sort of use it as a crutch your whole life, and said, hey, I'm not gonna go to college, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that, and I have a good reason, and everyone would look at you and be like, yeah, well, you're right, but you chose a different route, and you got to say, you know what, I do have a missing piece, but then hey, I'm gonna do the best I can without that missing piece. And it's sort of like I picture a puzzle with one missing piece. You still get the clear picture sometimes. You know what I mean? And it depends though, because sometimes we keep the missing piece as priority instead of the picture, and we just focus on the missing piece, and then our whole life is just surrounded by that missing piece, and we don't even enjoy our lives. We don't even live life to the best of our abilities, because we're focused on the piece that's missing instead of the pieces that are around us, like your mom, your sisters, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I think you did. And that's a beautiful thing right there. That's encouraging just for people, just, even myself. Because a lot of us, we grow up with everything we need, parents included, and we choose to still use other things as crutches, right?
Another piece of advice that my mom gave me that I think would be very useful, that what you were saying reminded me of, is instead of, going down that hole of, oh, well, I'm not going to go to college
Right.
because my dad or whatever, like you were saying, instead use their absence as an excuse to be better. That's what my mom told me. She basically told me, like, make your dad regret not being a part of your life, so that when he sees you, he'll be so overwhelmed and proud that he's just basically be like, I'm sorry. Not necessarily like, don't, I'm not trying to say like, don't make your dad feel crappy, but just sort of like that whole thing of like, if you have someone who doesn't like you, prove them wrong. Just that idea, basically. And I think that's definitely helped me a lot. It's just getting me where I am.
Some good stuff, man. That's good to hear too. And then just to see, like, you had to go through that whole journey just to get where you're at today. And
Yeah.
no, I was just talking
Sorry.
about your
I'm
journey,
sorry.
and then
Cut
like,
you off.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are hoping for that, did not get it, or like yourself. I don't know. Did you ever plan on, like, you said you felt it, like you knew that it was gonna come one day, but not for sure, or
I think if it wouldn't have happened, I still would be at peace with the situation, because even if had I not met him, I would still be here in college, in a 4-year university. I would have still have had all the experiences I had in California, because up until this point, everything I did was without him and without the promise of seeing him. But even through that, I was still able to just make it work. I'd say I'm relatively
right.
successful for my age. As an 18-year-old, I think I'm doing fine. And I think, even if someone never meets their dad or their mom, or just the parental figure, just know that you don't have to. You really don't. As much as it would be nice to know them, you still are your own individual person. And if anything, it might even make you stronger not knowing them, because you have to adapt on your own and overcome and learn how to deal with the fact that you don't have someone with life experience or at least that other half of life experience that your mom doesn't, and vice versa, to just help you. But instead, you do it on your own. And I think for some people, it might mature them at an earlier age. So be it. It doesn't make certain people better than others. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say if you don't have a dad, you're better than others because you do things on your own. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But don't think that you're at a disadvantage because you don't have your dad or your parental figure. Life's just going to be a little more tough, but it'll only be more rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
So yeah, just my piece on that. Man, I
I
feel
think
like I
good.
just preached
You're
a
good.
serious.
I think that's a good way to just even end it, is saying that you're speaking to these kids and saying they have all they need to be, to live their life to the best of their abilities. Whatever you don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you do have, and just keep moving forward and don't let your past determine your future. You know what I mean? And I really believe that. That's what you did, and you're an overcomer for that. And I think it's better. Let's imagine you going from, let's say, years ago and just holding on to your dad not being there and not living a life, and then meeting your dad and not having nothing going for yourself because you let that affect you. And I don't think it would have been so heartwarming when you met him. I think when you seen him, it would have been more resentful, more bitter. But since you went on and lived your life and you enjoyed it and you were just doing the best you could with what you got, then when you met your dad and you seen him, it's like it's so fulfilling instead of like, oh man, all these years are wasted. So that's another thing for the kids. Like, hey, don't waste your years, because at the end, it's not gonna do nothing for you. It's not gonna fulfill anything.
Yeah, I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, we only got one life on Earth, homie.
Bro.
We got one freaking shot at this, bro. Like, should you really waste your life trying to make a point of like, oh man, woe is me. I have been dealt a bad hand, therefore I am gonna go down a bad route. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, why not just freaking go for it? Like, why not just try? Like, obviously, easier said than done. I'm not saying it's easy to just be like, I'm gonna be successful. That's obviously not how life works. But it's like, why just accept defeat, especially so early? Like, we have our whole freaking lives, man, ahead of us. I don't know.
That's true, bro.
It hurts a lot. This is a little off topic, maybe a little off the track, but it hurts me to see, especially young people, give up so early. Because everyone, I believe, has potential. Everyone, every single person on this earth has potential. It's just whether or not you believe that in yourself. Whether or not you can push yourself to unlocking it, to using it, to doing something with it.
Yeah, I was really feeling what you're saying too, dude. Bro, he's prancing
Bro,
around crying.
He
Dude.
feels it, man.
I swear.
Is that?
Yeah,
Bro, he hears my
feels your
voice.
heart,
That's
bro.
why, bro. He misses me. I've seen him with the long hair.
Without the long hair, he's gonna cry.
No, he's not gonna be into me, bro. The relationship's over with.
The relationship is over.
I don't know. I feel like that's really it.
You really touched on everything, and I feel like definitely the most important parts of touching on this subject, because honestly, this generation, it's like the most fatherless generation ever. I even like looked up and tried researching some stats on it and all that, and it was like I think the stat, let me pull it up if anything. I think it was like 1 in 4 kids grow up without a dad in America nowadays. Yeah, it's 1 in 4 live without a father in the home, and this was in 2017. So, just as the way things look, I think it's probably even a greater number now. But that's horrible.
1 in 4 is tough.
That
1 in 4 is tough.
Yeah, but thank you so much for
Yeah.
just even letting us like touch on that subject.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm pretty sure people are gonna get help just from listening, or even just understanding that side. Because sometimes we only know our problems and our issues, and we don't even know like beyond our circle. So just knowing that there's kids out
Hmm.
there without, you know, fathers or even mothers or whatever, it's just a good thing to just be aware. Like, hey, let's just focus outside our own homes because you never know what the next person could be going through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I I feel comfortable sharing it just because I feel like we shouldn't hold like a taboo over this sort of
Right.
subject, you know. But I it's healthy to talk about it. It's good, and I'm glad that I have the opportunity to share my experience. I'm glad that I was able to. I'm just at peace. At peace with everything,
That's
the whole
good.
situation. Yeah, man. I think we're about done. Just
Yeah.
to wrap it up, yeah.
I
Fresh air,
like this
homie.
beginning phase of all of our episodes. It's
So random.
yeah, it's really fun.
Dude.
Oh yeah.
Humble beginnings, bro.
But yeah, man, I'm gonna cut it off. This has definitely been the longest we've recorded. Um, but yeah, we just wanted to talk on an interesting subject. So we could even go back to this later. Like part 2 or more in depth, and just like that whole thing about a fatherless generation. Just depending on how many people, I don't know, want to hear more or relate to it. All right, no worries, man.
Hey, tell Joseph to keep the snoring to a minimum next time.